Next, on Currents News, there are new priests in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Their journeys have been different, but they're all answering the same call. I'm Jessica Easthope with the 4 men who are ready to serve as priests in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Plus, the head of the Catholic Church in Germany has issued his resignation to Pope Francis. What this means for the church going forward. One Catholic college is stepping in to help with the COVID crisis in India.
This is an inspiration from God himself.
How they're making sure the sick have a place to stay. And the winners of the tablet COVID relief fundraiser have been announced. Students and their schools winning thousands of dollars from the diocesan paper. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The Diocese of Brooklyn officially has 4 new priests. Right now, they're spending time at their brand new parishes, but over the weekend, they experienced the moment they've been waiting for their entire lives. Currents News' Jessica Easthope took that journey with them, profiling each of them on their road to the priesthood, and now she has their final step, Ordination Day in Prospect Heights.
They walked in as deacons and left as priests. Life has taken these 4 men down very different paths, but led them here. Ordination Day at the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph was a new beginning for all of the priests, but especially for Father Robinson Olivares.
Robinson, do you promise?
At times his road to priesthood was rocky, but God was his guide. Now he wants to be a guide for others.
So many people, when they have God's blessing, they will feel complete. So that's what I'm looking forward to do for God's people.
By the Christian people.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio has ordained 104 priests in his time as the leader of the Diocese of Brooklyn. He says these 4 play a critical role in making the push to get people back to Mass.
These people believe, they're of this generation, and they can bring people back.
Reform your life.
Father Elvin Torres says this moment in history will mark the start of their ministries.
We are the priests of the pandemic, to be there with the people, helping them, administrating the sacrament to them, to bring them closer to God, is a blessing.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio delivered a special message in Vietnamese for Father Chin Nguyen and Father Joseph Tran, a personal touch to put them at ease on an important day.
Really exciting, nervous, but with grace. The grace of God is now, I feel it.
Ahead of ordination, the priests helped each other get ready, making sure stoles and vestments were just right.
A little way, a little thing how to serve with my brothers. That is a good way to prepare for priesthood life.
Their lives of service and ministries lie ahead. They answered God's call of vocation, but it might just be the first of many. In Prospect Heights, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Bishop DiMarzio just mentioned wanting the new priests to bring people back to Mass, especially now that the Sunday obligation is back in effect. This was the first weekend parishioners were expected back in the pews. Churches celebrated Corpus Christi, the feast of Christ's body and blood, many with outdoor processions with the Eucharist. Most of these processions were the first held since the start of the pandemic. And stay with us for a special montage of more photos from across the Diocese of Brooklyn. You can also visit thetablet.org to see how your parish celebrated the feast day. Vice President Kamala Harris is addressing the migrant crisis on her first trip overseas. She held a meeting in Guatemala's capital with its president. He blamed the heightened border crossings in part on the Biden administration's vow to reunite families. Vice President Harris issued a warning to any potential migrants.
At the same time, I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come.
Harris also announced a new task force to battle human trafficking at the border. At the same time, the Supreme Court ruled the government can block migrants with temporary protected status who entered the U.S. illegally from getting green cards. There are about 400,000 people living under TPS, and most entered the country legally. While TPS gives migrants a legal status to stay in the U.S., it does not guarantee a path to permanent residency. To the Vatican now, where Pope Francis expressed his sympathy for Canadians who were traumatized by the discovery of the remains of hundreds of indigenous children at a former church-run school.
La triste scoperta
accresce ulteriormente la consapevolezza dei dolori e delle sofferenze del passato.
Pope Francis on Sunday led hundreds of pilgrims in St. Peter's Square in a moment of silent prayer for the Indigenous children who died in Canadian residential schools. The pontiff said, "I join the Canadian bishops and the whole Catholic Church in Canada in expressing my closeness to the Canadian people who have been traumatized by the shocking news." The remains of 215 children were recently discovered on the grounds of the Kamloops Indian Residential School, a former boarding school run by both the Catholic Church and the Canadian government. The Indigenous community in British Columbia called it an unthinkable discovery.
It was devastating. It was actually quite mind-boggling.
In 2015, the Pope did issue an apology to all the Indigenous peoples of the Americas for abuses suffered. Still, in 2017, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau visited Pope Francis and asked him to apologize for the Church's role in abusing Native Canadians. He is once again asking for an explicit apology in light of the recent discovery. The Vatican left the decision to formally apologize to the Canadian bishops, and the highest-ranking member of the Catholic Church in Canada had this to say.
We as Christians need to be particularly regret and sorry and concerned that we took part in that system. Gone are the days when we simply move in and impose things. That is wrong. That's part of the whole problem. We must listen, we must journey, and that's what we're seeking to do, step by step, on the path of reconciliation.
The school opened in 1890 and was run by the church until 1969 when the federal government took over. It was closed in 1978. Top German Cardinal Reinhard Marx is submitting his resignation for mistakes he says he made in dealing with clerical abuse scandals. In a letter penned to the Pope, the Cardinal says it is important to him to share the, quote, responsibility for the catastrophe of sexual abuse by church officials. Cardinal Marx was the head of the Archdiocese of Munich-Freising, but also has served as a member of the Council of Cardinals, Pope Francis's personal advisors on church matters. For some clarity about this resignation, we are joined now by editor at Crux, John Allen. And John, you called Cardinal Marx's resignation sensational. Has the media blown it out of proportion?
Normally, when a cardinal resigns for reasons linked to the clerical sexual abuse crisis, it's in disgrace. It's because he's been accused of abuse or mishandling abuse cases. But in this instance, you have a cardinal who actually has not been accused of anything, who is nevertheless saying, I want to take responsibility for the institutional failures of the church. By any standard, that's a big deal. On the other hand, there are some perennial misunderstandings that always come up when we talk about a bishop resigning. For one thing, a bishop can't resign. He just can't of his own accord. He can offer his resignation, but it is always up to the Pope to accept. That's point one. Point two, even if Pope Francis were to accept Marx's resignation as the Archbishop of Munich, that's all it is. It doesn't mean he's not a cardinal anymore. He would continue to be a cardinal in good standing. He would continue to be the head of the Vatican's Council for the Economy. He would continue to sit on the Pope's Council for Cardinals. He would continue to be a very big dog in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I want to read part of the resignation letter to you that he wrote to Pope Francis. He says, to assume responsibility, it is therefore not enough, in my opinion, to react only and exclusively if the files provide proof of the mistakes and the failures of individuals. We as bishops have to make clear that we also represent the institution of the church as a whole. So he talks about guilt and responsibility for the way sex abuse scandals are handled. Do you think we could see more religious resign for the same reason?
Well, I don't know, but what I do know is that every time you have a religious order or a country or a diocese where a clerical abuse scandal erupts, the question is going to be, why can't you follow Cardinal Marx's example?
So what happens next if the Pope does accept his resignation? Is this the end of Cardinal Marx's career in the church?
Christine, I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I would bet my last dollar that a year from now, 5 years from now, you and I are still going to be talking about Cardinal Reinhard Marx as a big deal in the Catholic Church. If he's no longer in Munich, I think there's a good chance that he may end up in the Vatican. Bear in mind that the Congregation for Bishops, for instance, is currently led by a cardinal who is about to celebrate his 77th birthday. Cardinal Marx is 67. He could slot in there, and for the next decade could be helping Pope Francis and potentially whoever his successor is appoint Catholic bishops all around the world. So no, I do not think this is the end for Cardinal Reinhard Marx. I think, if anything, this is the beginning of what could potentially be the most important chapter of his story.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Resignation or not, we'll still hear from him. John Allen, editor at Crux, thanks for breaking it down for us. Now to the COVID front. Students in New York no longer have to wear masks outdoors on school grounds, but they still have to wear them inside. Governor Andrew Cuomo clarifying his administration's comments on lifting the order for kids inside school. Cuomo said his new decision comes after state and CDC officials met about new guidelines. Most remaining COVID restrictions will be lifted when 70% of adults in New York have received at least one dose of the vaccine. Currently, the state is nearly 69%. Also tonight, the winners of the tablet fundraiser. Students and clergy fired up over the contest.
We're great to do it. Let's do it again.
Thousands raised for the Catholic students and their schools. Currents News with the numbers and how the schools are reacting. The students earned the big money prizes for selling subscriptions to the diocese newspaper. Currents News' Emily Druby spoke with the big winners and the schools that will be receiving the money.
A big surprise and a big check for 3 Catholic school students. They're the Tablets COVID relief fundraiser top sellers.
I can't even explain how I'm feeling. I'm just so happy about it.
The aim, sell as many subscriptions as they could. With 48 subscriptions, 5th grader Noelle Pianoforte of St. Athanasius Catholic Academy in Bensonhurst took home the grand prize, a $3,000 check. Her mom says a chunk is going to next year's tuition.
She worked hard, so it's good that, she got to see her hard work pay off.
But to Noelle, the real prize was helping her school.
Raising money for your school isn't really that hard. It's just fun, and it's very exciting.
For every subscription sold, the school got $5, making principals like Diane Campatello both grateful and proud.
It's so nice to see that spirit in a child. She wants to give back. She wanted something for the school. She wanted something for her family. She really stepped up to the plate.
Congratulations.
Big checks were dropped off personally by Tablet staff. John Alexander spearheaded the fundraiser.
So heartening, and it's so rewarding, and just to see their faces, their happy faces, and to know they accomplished something that not only benefits them, it benefits their school and their families.
A close second place went to 8th grader Jaius Jordan with 40 subscriptions.
Kind of just astonished that I got $2,000.
On top of that, he also got a bonus from his school, St. Elizabeth Catholic Academy in Ozone Park, for being their top student, 1 month free tuition.
I saw that you could get 1 month free of tuition, so I just decided to do it for help financially for my family.
Third place went to 3rd grader Santiago Deniz of St. Sebastian Catholic Academy in Woodside.
I was so happy. I actually won.
His 22 subscriptions earned him a $1,000 bonus. He had a unique selling strategy.
We just made a video elevator pitch. My mom sent it as a text message to all of the people we knew.
In total, $20,000 given away to the students and $11,000 to the schools. But Monsignor David Casado, vicar for Catholic schools, says the help is priceless.
Everybody today is struggling financially. I don't care who you are. Every church is struggling financially. Every school is struggling financially. And you know what they say? Every little bit helps. A little bit here, a little bit there pays the tuition. It keeps the school electric bill paid.
And there were more winners. 2 schools also won $3,000 bonuses for having the highest sellers. St. Francis de Sales Catholic Academy of Bell Harbor, Queens in the large school category, and St. Stanislaus Kostka Catholic Academy of Greenpoint, Brooklyn in the small school category. The Tablet newspaper has plans to relaunch the fundraiser next school year. In Woodside, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
And if you didn't get a chance to be in all the action, don't worry. The fundraiser will likely return in the fall for high schools and parishes. Still to come on Currents News, as the pandemic rages on in India, a Catholic university is stepping in to help. We'll show you how. Plus, COVID still having an effect on church traditions, how Pope Francis celebrated the feast of Corpus Christi. And an Italian nun declared blessed, what she said as she was being stabbed to death by 3 teenage girls.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Checking up on the coronavirus crisis in India, the government there has announced it will be taking over vaccine distribution despite its mishandling of the second wave of the pandemic. Less than 4% of the population is currently vaccinated, although India is seeing a drop in COVID cases and is preparing to reopen in increments. The pandemic is still devastating the country. Currents News' Emily Druby spoke with one Catholic organization that has been helping the country for the past month and a half during the height of its second wave.
More than 114,000 new COVID infections in India on Sunday. Sounds like a high number, but it's actually the lowest in months, a sliver of hope as the country continues to fight the second wave.
And the second was worse than the first. Every day you hear people dying. Every day you hear people going to the hospitals.
Father Felix Raj is the Vice Chancellor of St. Xavier's Catholic University in Kolkata, India. He watched the disease devastate his country, a shortage of vaccines, a shortage of hospital beds, pain and fear taking over. So his school took action.
We just couldn't sit idle and watch what was happening. We were touched by the sufferings of our people, especially our neighborhood. And so we said it is time for us as a university community to respond.
Setting up care centers equipped with doctors, nurses, beds, and oxygen to take overflow patients, using a university building and help from a local hospital and the government. They started with 40 crucial beds.
This is an inspiration from God himself. He gave us the courage to respond to this call and said not only this center in the university, but also to start centers outside the university, outside the city.
Opening 3 more of these care centers in Catholic buildings in rural areas, 130 additional beds, bringing the total up to 170. They teamed up with the Catholic Diocese of Anasol to find the spaces, all in Catholic buildings. Father Raj says he hopes cases will continue to decline and vows to keep the centers open while they're needed. He's not asking for donations, but he needs something equally as important.
We require your prayers. If you pray for us, that's more than enough.
In Brooklyn, Emily Druby, Currents News.
More than 160 people in Burkina Faso were killed by gunmen over the weekend. According to reports, heavily armed militants executed members of a local defense force, killed civilians, destroyed houses, and burned the local market to the ground. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The West African Director for Human Rights Watch says Islamist militants are trying to implement a Sharia legal system in the area and drive aid agencies out of the region. Meanwhile, in Italy, an Italian nun stabbed to death by 3 teenage girls has been beatified. Sister Maria Laura Mannetti was beatified on the 21st anniversary of her murder in the northern Italian town where she was killed. In the year 2000, she was lured into a park by 3 girls she taught catechism to and was brutally attacked and killed. During the terrifying crime, she prayed for God to forgive her killers. Pope Francis declared her a martyr last June. Around 2,500 people took part in the procession and beatification mass. Pope Francis celebrated Corpus Christi with a mass inside St. Peter's Basilica. For a second year in a row, the traditional procession was canceled due to the pandemic. The Pope saying the procession is a reminder we must outwardly express our faith. At the end of the celebration, everyone present prayed before the Blessed Sacrament for several minutes. Still to come on Currents News, Corpus Christi through the streets of Brooklyn and Queens, one of the first processions in more than a year. And we speak with a Catholic school student who has raised tens of thousands of dollars for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. How she did it, next. It's not uncommon to hear about young kids taking part in fundraisers. We told you earlier about all of the students who raised money through the Tablet's COVID relief fundraiser. But wait until you hear this. A Catholic school student in Wisconsin who, throughout her childhood, has raised tens of thousands of dollars for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Anna Allen, recent graduate of Regis High School in Eau Claire, joins us now. And Anna, this all started when you were in 6th grade. Tell me why you decided to give back then. What inspired you?
Yeah, so it started with the help of my 6th grade English teacher, Mrs. Klotz, who started an iReach program, which was just a program at school to help kids get out in the community and volunteer more. And that kind of made me realize I wanted to do my own thing for volunteering, which in this case was the St. Jude's thrift sale. So that kind of helped ignite this whole spark of the thrift sale fundraiser.
So since then, this annual fundraiser has brought in more than $30,000 for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Why did you choose St. Jude's?
Yeah, so I picked St. Jude's because I really took to heart their mission statement, which is that no kid, no matter race, religion, or their family's ability to pay, should be denied treatment. And I just think that's amazing. And because of St. Jude's, they've helped the cancer survival rate go from 20% to 80%. So I think that's just an awesome organization to go to.
It really is. How did it feel to reach that $30,000 mark?
It was amazing, and I just still can't believe it. And I would never have been able to do it without the help of everyone in the community and really around the country too.
I wanted to ask you about that. I know it started as a small garage sale, but it's really grown. Talk about how the community has stepped in to help throughout the years.
Yeah, so it started mostly just with my family, just donating our stuff, and then it slowly spread to friends and family, and then community organizations and churches. So everyone has played a part, and even the community members who are attending the thrift sale and buying things are also a huge part of that.
Absolutely, I love it. So now you just graduated high school. What are your future plans, and will you continue to give back?
Yeah, so I will be attending the University of Minnesota Rochester for pre-med, and there I will also be able to continue some type of volunteering, so I'm very excited.
All right, Anna Allen, good luck as you continue your studies and keep on giving.
Thank you, I will.
And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. In honor of the Feast of Corpus Christi this weekend, we leave you with some images of processions that took place around the diocese. Hope to see you again next time.